Hey guys, it's Mark Holthe here, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, coming to you live for another EE Live Q&A. Wow, I am pretty excited about this week. I've got a bunch of really neat things that I'm going to be announcing, and there's going to be some significant changes in about a week. But for the time being, I want to announce a very, very special promotional offer that I am going to be doing for Black Friday. And it seems like everybody does this. And it seems like, at least in North America, one of the days that you can get the absolute best deals is on Black Friday. But now, as you've seen, at least those who are here in North America, it tends to be Black Friday week. So starting Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, which is Black Friday, all of these amazing blowout deals. And so with that being said, I want to let all of you guys know that I am going to be doing something I have never done before. So this is the first time, and it's only going to be for a very, very short period of time. And this is it right here. I am going to offer a one-time access, basically one-time purchase, so a lifetime access to my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself for 70% off. So I have never offered it this cheap. It's going to expire November the 30th, and so if you want to take advantage of this, you need to do it now. And all you need to do is go to the CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com page, go into the individual guides, and then when you click on purchase the lifetime access, all you have to do is type in Black 70, BLACK 70, and you can get that discount. But it's going to come to an end on November the 30th. So it seems like this is the thing to do here on with Black Friday week coming up. So I just wanted to let all of you guys know about that right off the bat. Usually I'll wait until the end, but this is something I'm going to be posting everywhere, and it is live now. So you can actually go and you can access it right now, but there are going to be a limited number of quantities because I'm not going to release 5,000 of these to the world. There's only a limited number that I'm going to be offering. And so if you want to take advantage of them, it comes to an end on November the 30th or when they're all used up. All right. So I wanted to share that with you, and I'm super excited about that. Let's see who's tuning in here today. I'm super excited. Okay, we've got Rahimullah, who says, "Sir, I have an interesting, please." I have no clue. That's what's so funny about these videos is sometimes, despite my best efforts to try to understand what people are saying, sometimes I just have no clue what they're saying. So today I'm going to, I have a bunch of really, really cool things that I'm going to be sharing. Andrew says, Mark, how you doing? I'm doing awesome, my friend. Masood says, hi, Mark. Kavir says, hi. Guys, post where you're listening from. As always, post. As those of you who are just jumping on now, I'll just reintroduce myself. I'm Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher who is coming once again here on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page for another Express Entry Live Q&A. And every week, right at noon, this is when I do it. And then for those of you who are watching this as a video, I want you guys to know that I do not forget about you. You guys are just as important as the people that are able to tune in at this crazy time, which is noon Mountain Standard Time. And why do I do it now? It's because this is my work day. And so I'm basically giving up my lunch so that I can do these live Q&As for all of you. And I love doing this. I love answering your questions. So thank you so much. Now, those of you who are out there, and I'm just going to zip down here and I'm going to post a couple quick things right here. Let's see if we can find it. Looks like I've got to try to find the links for... I was doing a whole bunch more videos the other day, and now I'm having trouble finding the images for how to connect with me if you're watching this as a recording. Wow. One day I'm going to have a tech person that is going to be doing all of these things. But as it stands right now, I'm going to try to multitask. And those of you who know about multitasking realize that it's impossible. You can't do two things at the same time. And so while we're waiting for people to tune in and to join our live Q&A today, I'm going to figure out where this is that I'm trying to show. So bear with me. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Wow. I don't know where all these came from. I thought I deleted all of these. I've got a whole bunch of little little text messages that I can pull up on my screen. And I thought all of these were deleted, but for some reason they're all here. All of my old ones, everything has come back. And so now when I'm trying to find the ones that I want to share, they're all stuck within all of these other ones. So this is one that I want to share, which is EE Live Q&A, and that's what you guys put in the subject line. And then I'm also going to, boy, I'm going to have to redo this here. That's okay. So we'll do this here. Sometimes these updates do interesting things. Let's see what that does. And now I will click on this. There we go. Okay. So a couple things I wanted you guys to realize. If you're watching this as a recording, you can actually get your questions answered. And the way you do that is to send an email to stephanie@stringham.ca, and you must put in your subject line EE Live Q&A. And if you do that, then there's a chance, wait a minute. Here they are. There's a chance that you can get your questions answered in my EE Live Q&A. So let's see where people are tuning in from. And if you are just joining in, please let me know where you guys are tuning in from, because I love to see how far this reaches. I've been quite astounded, I'll be honest, at how many people connect from all over the world in so many different countries. And me here in little old Lethbridge, Alberta, small town, little over 100,000 people in southern Alberta, I am able to reach you all over the world, which is so thoroughly amazing. Okay, let's see who we've got here. So Jawad, hey, Jawad is not very far. He's actually just 2 hours north from me up in Calgary. That's fantastic, Jawad. I'm glad that you're able to tune in. Let's see. So Masood says, what's the update on your UAE plan? Masood, the UAE plan is not going to happen, my friend. And in all honesty, I found that Facebook really sucks for doing any promotional advertising. So the discount that I have right now is where it's at. And in all fairness, that other one, if you're referring to it, Masood, really, I had no purchasers of it. It was a complete and total waste. So I will not be doing that kind of discount again. But Masood, for you, just like anyone else, right now, I am offering, and I'm going to pull this right back up again, just so everybody knows, it is Boxing Week right now, and I'm going to be offering my complete, right here, the complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself for 70% off. And this is my Black Friday or Black Friday week sale. It will end November the 30th, and all you have to do is go to the Canadian Immigration Institute site and type in, we'll select the individual guides, then select the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. And then once you're there, all you have to do is type in Black70 into the coupon code. All right. Oh, had a little sneeze there. Okay, let's see. Kabir is tuning in from India. Welcome, Kabir. Jahan says hello. Sharaf is from India. Milton is CMR. Very, very cool, guys. Thanks for tuning in. So those of you who are watching this live, you are super important to me because you are what makes this so much fun. When you post your questions, and don't do it just yet, it gives me an opportunity to interact with you in a real live setting, which really is what gives this EE Live Q&A. This is what makes it so much fun. So thank you so much for taking the time to do it. And I know it's not a convenient time. I'm sure if I did this at a different time, maybe in the evening here, I would get more people from North America because they weren't at work. Maybe if I did this at maybe, 12, let's see, what time would be good? I guess if I did it at about 6 a.m. in the morning, then I would hit all of you people in India at a reasonable time in your evening. But the reality is I've got a family. I have I have obligations to my work and the paying clients that I have. So noon Mountain Standard Time is kind of the time that fits the best for me, that is the least disruptive and allows me to be consistent with this. So very cool. All right, let's see, who else do we have here? We've got Precious is watching from Okanagan Valley. Oh, that's awesome. And Yuri is in Poland and soon Toronto. You bet, Yuri. I am so excited for you, my friend. Very cool. All right. If you guys can just give me a heads up, I just want to make sure that the audio is okay and that it's a good volume. You guys can hear me. It's not too quiet. Just give me a thumbs up if you could, if the audio is good, or just post a comment below. I am going to just post for everyone's purposes here who are watching this live or will watch this as a recording. I'm actually going to post the link directly in the comment section for that amazing 70% off deal. So all you have to do is click on that and it will take you right there and you can purchase your lifetime access for basically it's just under $150, which is 70% off the regular $497. Okay, I'm going to leave that. Okay, so Yuri says all perfect, awesome. Abhishek gives me a thumbs up, fantastic. Okay, guys, let's jump. Actually, let me just see here. How do we have? Okay, we've got about 23 that look like they're listening live right now. I just want to show you a couple more things while we wait for other people to connect. Over the weekend, my daughter and I, right here, Jessica, we went back down to Cottonwood Park and did a little hike on Sunday again, and we saw just tons of mule deer and white-tailed deer like I was showing you last week. So that was a lot of fun. And then just yesterday, because my other two children weren't able to get down there with me, we went right here. Now, I wonder if you guys can guess where this place is. Obviously, you can see there's a couple cats in their arms, but you guys guess, and I post in the comments below where you think I took my kids yesterday after I got off work. All right, so take a good look at that picture and you can kind of see behind. I wish I could show you a little bit more, but those are actually other animal cages. Okay, so you tell me where you think I took my kids and post in the comments. All right, it was actually really fun last night. We had a good time. Okay, and I will tell you later, but I want to see if you guys can guess where it was. Oh man, Yuri already has it. He's so he's so fast. Yuri's 100% correct. I took my kids here to the pet shelter, the animal shelter, and my daughter has just been dying for a dog, and so we always go there. And sometimes they have dogs, sometimes they don't. There's always cats. So last night we spent some time visiting with these little cats, and there's just a whole bunch there. So that's what my kids love to do. Awesome. Masu said that's a foster center. In a way it is, in a way that it's for animals. Yes, Syed's got pet adoption center. Good job, guys. You guys are on top of it. So that is what the latest in the Holthe family. All right, let's jump in here and let's start answering questions so that I've got lots of time to answer all of you guys' questions when we get to the live question section. So hold off for now, posting your questions in the comment section. I'll give you the green light and then you can start posting them and then we'll answer them. Okay, let's start off here. This first question that I have, this one is from Suresh. And Suresh says here, Dear Mark, recently I got an ITA, but my TRV work permit application was refused in 2017. I've ordered the GCMS notes to get to know what the officer said in the comments about the refusal, and I found that there was an error made where the officer stated that I worked in India. And in reality, I actually worked in Nepal. And my application was submitted to the Visa Application Center in Kathmandu, and they mailed it to the Indian Visa Office. I've never been in India. So my query is, does that wrong comment of the original officer affect my processing of my ITA? Should I have to inform to IRCC about it? If yes, how? Well, Suresh, I can tell you that it makes no difference. You do not need to worry about this in any way. Don't even give it a second thought. In fact, I wouldn't have even bothered requesting the GCMS notes because there's no real purpose to doing it. If you have a prior visa refusal to Canada or any other country, the most important part is just to disclose it. You don't need to provide a whole history of why and the reasoning and rationale why that officer refused it. The most important part is to disclose it. You say, yes, I had applied for a prior visa in 2017. It was refused, and that's basically it. You just need to disclose it. Now, I have meetings in Ottawa next week, and one of the items on the agenda that I have with the immigration officers is misrepresentation. And guys, they are crazy. They are taking very, very strict interpretations of that. Now, I'm not going to say that the individual is crazy, because the officers are actually genuinely really good people. But the position they're taking with respect to how easily they dish out these misrepresentation allegations is just cruel and heartless and unfair. And you guys have heard me say that quite frequently. But it's true. You omit something in your application, you fail to indicate that I actually had a prior visa refusal in Canada, well, they can refuse you and apply a misrepresentation bar of 5 years against you. And it's ridiculous, because they can go into your system, they can see your whole immigration history, they can see you had a prior visa refusal to Canada. And so an omission, failing to put it in, even if it's a mere innocent omission, can result in you getting your application refused and having a 5-year bar to Canada. So yes, it's cruel. Yes, it can be heartless, but you guys need to make sure that you just disclose it. But in your case, Suresh, no, you don't need to go into great depth to notify them about some mistake that an officer may have made in the past. If you've got your invitation to apply, your ticket is booked to Canada. And I also want to let people know, and I'm actually going to just type up a new little message here, which is this right here. Let's see how it appears. I'm not even sure what color it's going to appear as. Right there. This is for you, Suresh, and this is for anyone else who's listening. This deal that I have right here that I showed you guys before, this 70% off deal comes to an end November the 30th for my lifetime access. But I am also offering 20%, I should say, well, I don't even know how much percentage it is, $500 off my Silver Plan review. So for $2,000, I will review your entire application together with you, all the documents. We will go through your profile, make sure that there was nothing improper in there, your EAPR. We do a Skype screen share. It's just like this, except I share my screen with you guys. And we go through everything in your MyCIC portal, and I even help you to draft letters of explanation. And so in a world where you just can't take any chances, any mistake's going to result in you losing potentially your opportunity to ever immigrate to Canada, because maybe in the case of Suresh, maybe in the case of Suresh here, who received an ITA, maybe the scores will never drop back down to the level in which Suresh received that ITA. And one little mistake could potentially mean you never have an opportunity to immigrate to Canada again. So I have a special offer until the end of November, which is basically Saturday, $2,000 to do my Silver Plan reviews. So that's another way that I'm kind of giving back during this crazy Black Friday sale. All right. Okay, I'm going to also get rid of this one, and I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to add in one more. Wow, this is interesting. I'm not even sure where. Let's see here. I've got a bunch of things here. And I wonder what these are. Oh, there's that one. You guys can bear with me as I'm trying to figure things out. There we go. That's the one. Oh, did it go? Okay, there. No, it's fine. Okay, so sorry, I'm rambling. I'm all over the map, but I am on my game today. Okay, let's see what we've got here. This next one is from Ivan. And he says, my name is Ivan, and I would like to ask a question regarding updating an EE profile. I have updated my profile many times. I've added information like foreign and Canadian work experience, then I removed it, then I added it again, and finally, I just listed 1 year of work experience in Canada under NOC-B, which is enough to get me into the pool. Therefore, I've removed all the foreign work experience, and because I didn't have a work reference letter for that work experience. And he said that I still haven't received an ITA, but now he's questioning, he's concerned because he's made so many changes, and now he wants to know if all of these changes are going to be a problem, and whether you should just cancel it all and start the profile over again. And so that's really what he's asking questions about. And so he's wondering if, because of all these changes, if it's going to create a big problem. Well, I can tell you, Ivan, that those changes, after you've registered your profile into your MyCIC account and you've actually registered it with the government, any changes that you do make are visible. An officer can see when you've made a change and then you've gone back in and then you've resaved it again. Those are visible. And if you request the GCMS notes, you can see that. But if you're flipping around, adding, deleting, you can make as many changes as you want within your profile, and it should not impact negatively on your application. But if for some reason an officer looks at it and starts to question what's going on here, you can always explain in a letter of explanation why you did what you did. And I'm 100% certain that you've got a very valid reason. In other words, I listed my foreign work experience, but then I couldn't get the reference letter. And so I took it out. I removed it. Maybe that's the reason, right? Maybe that's your answer. And so sometimes I will put a letter of explanation in because I just want to be thorough. And I want to make sure that there is no room whatsoever for an officer to refuse my application or to have any question or doubts about whether or not the information that I'm putting in is truthful. So my goal as an immigration officer is to take your application and to put in every single thing that I could possibly think of to make sure that it is 100% complete, correct. And if there's any concerns, then I provide explanations. And my goal is to reduce down all the way to here so that an immigration officer has no room here to actually refuse. In other words, they have to approve it because everything's correct. So that's my purpose. That's my goal. Okay. There you go. Hope that helped, Ivan. Okay. Mahmoudal, let's see. Yes, this is Mahmoudal says, "Hi, Mark and Stephanie. I hope this email finds you well. I'm in a unique situation and I wanted to reach out to you for your guidance. Here's my problem with regards to express entry. I have a permanent resident sibling sister, but as she is not currently living in Canada, I'm not eligible to get any additional 15 points. My current CRS score is enough to get an ITA without that sibling score. If I select no with regards to PR sibling query in my express entry profile, would it be misrepresentation given that she is not in Canada at the time of my application? My sister's spouse is living in Canada and all of the supporting documents are under his name, but his sister is not, just the spouse is. And so I'm not sure how to proceed in this unique situation. I would be grateful if you could answer my questions through email or in the next live Q&A session." Well, this question happens a lot. And the most important thing to realize is when your situation doesn't fit perfectly into either the questions that are being asked or because of the way in which you had to answer the question, it's not a complete answer, or maybe you're not able to fully explain within the actual EAPR questions, then that's where you rely on your letters of explanation, including if the way you answered your question results in a new section being created in your personal document checklist. In those situations, it's really important that you use your letter of explanation as a sword. So in other words, you are using it to make sure, and maybe a shield is a better explanation, a better analogy. You use the letter of explanation as a shield to protect you from an officer misinterpreting or misunderstanding, what you put in your actual questions in the EAPR, or how you've uploaded documents into your document checklist. So in the case of you, Mahmoud, I recommend that you answer the question truthfully. So if the question is asking that, do you have a sibling in Canada? Well, the answer is no, you don't. Because your sibling, even though they are a permanent resident, are not currently in Canada. And if you don't need those points, then that shouldn't trigger it. But if for whatever reason, how you answer the question, some people will have siblings that don't cooperate with them. they will have a sibling that they've had a falling out with and that won't give them the documentation that they need. Then in those circumstances, it's really important that you upload your explanation into that particular section of your EAPR that the government is asking you to upload documents for. And you'll know what they are. It's proof of residence of your sibling, proof of status in Canada, proof of relationship. All of those sections will be triggered if you say you have a sibling living in Canada. So if you are struggling with getting that documentation, or in the case of Mahmoudul, you can see here that his sibling doesn't live in Canada, then the answer is no if your sibling doesn't live in Canada. And that's how I address it. All right, good question. Okay, this one is from Atta. And Atta says, Dear Mark, first of all, I'd like to say to you and your team are doing an excellent job. Guess who my team is? Me and Stephanie. We are the team. Your videos are extremely useful. My wife is the primary applicant. This is my second marriage. Oh, yes. Umer Atta. Umer, this question that you've asked is the foundational question for this video. So this is the one in the title. What to do with a non-accompanying dependent where your ex or former spouse is not cooperating. I can tell you guys that it is an absolute nightmare. Let me finish with the question and then I'll answer. So he says, I have a son from my first marriage who lives with his mother in Pakistan. We have declared him in the forms and everywhere else, but my ex-wife refuses to provide with any of the documents that are required, like a passport copy and the medical. What can I do in this case? I can only provide his birth certificate. Your help would be much appreciated. I can book a consultation because I can't book a consultation because Skype and every other VoIP is blocked here in the UAE. That's interesting, but one of the apps that I use for the UAE to get around this is, let me see if I can find it here. Let's see if I can find the app. There is always a way, thanks to very, very creative, ingenuitive people. Do you know what? I can't even, Bottom, I think is what it is. BOTIM. I think that's the one that I use. So there is an app that we can still communicate through virtually. So there's no issues with that, Umer. And I have lots of clients from the UAE. Now, with all of that being said, I do recommend, Umer, that you and I do have a consultation because this is super, super complicated. But here's how it works. So listen carefully, okay? If you have shared custody with your ex. So in other words, you and your ex have shared custody of that child, then you're in a whole heap of problems because immigration in many, many circumstances will mandate that you either go back to your country and take physical steps to try to force your spouse to get that child medically examined, or you access the justice system in your country as another way to prove your efforts in trying to force your spouse to have that child medically examined. So you can't just sit here and say, oh, she won't talk to me, too bad. Trust me, I've tried on so many occasions. Lately, I've got one with a client where I went through the whole process of even reaching out to that ex-spouse to see if she would cooperate, explaining how by allowing the child to be examined, then she would never have to see her ex-spouse again. And no way, they would not accept it. In fact, they came back again to us and requested that the child be medically examined. And this was the last letter. And I'm fully expecting that they're going to refuse it. And if they refuse it in those circumstances, then it's hard because there's been a federal court case that's come out a few years ago, Anderson versus immigration, essentially, where the individual didn't take sufficient steps. And because the couple had shared custody of that child, they wouldn't allow the person to land, and they refused the application. And it is cruel. It is heartless. And it's another thing that I want to put on the list when it comes to dealing with immigration. And so how do you get around this? Well, one of the realities is for you, Umer, if your ex-spouse has sole custody of that child, then there is a pathway forward for you. And that pathway is to make a statutory declaration that says you are waiving your ability to sponsor that child in the future. And that's pretty much the only way. Now, built into all of this is the discretion of an officer under Section 25 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, which is for humanitarian and compassionate considerations to be applied to the situation to let you land, even though your child hasn't been medically examined and even though you have shared custody. So it's always possible to make that request. And I did that for my client. And I also pointed out that it was heartless and cruel to force a parent to give up their custodial rights to their child, even if their ex is blocking it. And so in your situation, Umair, I recommend you do reach out and book a consult. But for the rest of you, this is a huge, massive issue. If you have a non-accompanying dependent child who's with an ex-spouse and that ex-spouse refuses to allow them to be medically examined, you are in trouble. It can completely unravel your whole express entry application. And in fact, if once again, you were granted an ITA at a certain level and it never drops down to that round of invitation level again, your hope of coming to Canada could be gone, all because of a vindictive ex-spouse. All right. That is the pillar question for the EE Live Q&A today. Okay, Amina says, hope you're doing well. I have 2 questions for you. Okay, Amina, I'll answer one of them. I need to get my police clearance translated from Russian into English, and I'd like to do so by a Canadian translation firm. Do you have a translation agency in Canada that you can recommend? And do we also need to get a certified copy? What does that mean? Understand that when you are getting anything translated for the purposes of express entry, you have to adhere to the requirements in the completeness check website. So I'm going to shift my screen over here. I'm going to go to EE completeness check, which I go to so frequently that it pops up very easily in my Google. And I'm going to scroll down here till I get to the part where it talks about translations. So this is where you're reading. This is where the translations are. So if it's in a language other than English or French, it needs to be translated, and it needs to have the translation, an affidavit from the person who completed the translation, and a certified photocopy of the original document. That's what you have to provide. Now, when it comes to Canadian translators, just go through and make sure that whatever translator that you're using are a part of the Association of Translators. And often they're governed at a provincial level. Actually, I'll go back here again and I'll show you. This is another source that you can go to. I think you guys probably know that I also do a Canadian immigration podcast right here, which is awesome. And I'm going to put in here Giovanni. Let's see. So I did a special podcast. Let's see if we can find it here. Translation. Open that one up. There it is. Okay. So there you go. This is a tool that I want to direct all of you guys to, how to select the best translator for your immigration application. In this case, it was Monica de Maria of Giovanni Translation and Interpretation who came and joined me, but she gave some awesome tips and suggestions on what you can do to make sure that you're selecting the proper translator. Now, these translators, she talked about from an Alberta perspective, but in every other province, there's also a method for you to track people down. So you can go and you can listen to this episode. I'll put a link in, once again, in the comment section right here. And but you can also just go and you can search for it. So Canadian Immigration Podcast, how to select the best translator. And that's where I will direct you to. All right. So there you go, Amina. All right, let's shift back here. And now we will go to the next question, which is Fawzia. So Fawzia says, Dear Mark, greetings for the day. First of all, you are doing a great job. My question are as follows. Oh, actually, do you know what? I don't know if I finished. I better make sure that I finished the... I jumped ahead a little bit here. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm on track. I didn't miss one. I'm good here. And I can see people are starting to post comments here. So those of you who are tuning in and are watching this live, hold off on posting your comments until I give you the thumbs up, okay? And then I will know exactly where to start and I can go through all of them systematically. I'm just about through here, but if you have posted your comment, hold off and then we'll do it again. We'll get you to post it again. Okay, so back again to Fawzia from India. My questions are as follows. Can you please explain the average 6 months balance as mentioned in the CIC guidelines to be mentioned in the bank letter? What does it exactly mean, and what is CIC looking for? If the bank mentions current balance and 6 months average balance in the letter, and it is equivalent to the required funds, do we still have to provide 6 months bank statements? Okay, let's go to the source, everybody. Let's go right back to our source. In this case, I'm going to go straight to the part for proof of funds right here. And you'll see that in these instructions, it asks you to provide an official letter from one or more financial institutions that lists all current bank and investment accounts, as well as outstanding debts such as credit card debts and loans. So if your consultant or your representative is telling you, oh, you don't need to include anything, just the bank account that has your funds in it, they are counseling you to misrepresent. So they have asked you to provide official letter that lists all the current bank accounts, investment accounts, debts, credit card debts, etc. And so obviously credit card companies are not going to have a they're not going to produce a letter for you. In those cases, you can use your actual credit card, the statements that you have. But when it comes to banks, you have to understand that you're just going to do the best that you can. And in your case here, you're asking, what do they mean by 6 months? Let's keep going here, okay? So the first thing that we have here is the letter must be printed on the letterhead of the financial institution. It must include the applicant's name, contact information of the financial institution, the account numbers, the date each account was opened, and the current balance of each account, as well as the average balance for the past 6 months. This is the part right here, average balance for the past 6 months. Why are they asking for this? Well, it's pretty simple. They want to know that the funds that you've acquired are actually yours. And if you have an average balance, it kind of helps them to see that those funds have been incrementally increasing in your account and that they're a part of your savings. And they want all of the information here from all of the institutions just so that they can see whether or not you have sufficient funds to actually support yourself and to settle in Canada if they grant you a permanent resident visa. And the most important thing to realize here is that, yes, a gift deed does work. And yes, a letter from a bank that doesn't have the average balance for the past 6 months will work, but you want to be as comprehensive as possible. So Fazia asked, well, do you need to still provide bank statements if the letter actually does show the average balance? No, you don't at all. If you have a letter that doesn't show the past 6 months, the average balance, then you could go in and just print off the last 6 months of bank statements and include them. That will accomplish the same thing. So that's what I recommend, but you don't need to worry too much about perfection here. But if you do have the balance in the letter, then that's all you need. All right. We are now on to the last question. And this one is, this one's from Sharath. And he says, I've read that proof of funds is not mandatory for CEC applicants. But what about CEC outland applicants? Is proof of funds necessary if I apply under CEC from India? Great question. Nope, you don't. Whether you're in Canada or not, if you are qualified under the Canadian Experience class and have been found eligible and have been granted your invitation to apply, but you're not currently in Canada, you still don't have to provide proof of funds. All you need to indicate in the proof of funds section is that you have been drawn under you've been found eligible under the Canadian Experience class. That's the program you're applying under, and you're not required to provide any proof of funds. And so that's what I include in there. All right. Okay. So that is the end of those questions. Thank you so much for all of you awesome people who sent those in. Remember that Stephanie is the gatekeeper. And so if you are, let's see if I can find it again here. Stephanie is the gatekeeper. So if you, let's see if we can find it. Here's this one, EE Live Q&A. And once again, I'm still struggling for whatever reason to find the one for Stephanie. Okay, so here we go. Let's push this in again. Okay, so if you have a question that you would like to be sent and you're watching this as a video and you want it answered, and you're watching it after the fact, not live, all you need to do is send an email to stephanie@stringham.ca and put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. But remember, right here, Stephanie, she is the gatekeeper. And if your question, even though you put EE Live Q&A in the subject line, if your question is general in nature, is something that would benefit all of the listeners and is a question that other people other than you would have as well, then you've got an excellent chance of getting it into the EE Live Q&A. However, if your question is specific to just you, it's related to something about your own unique circumstances, and it doesn't really apply or wouldn't be beneficial necessarily for everyone else, then Stephanie's going to send you a request for a consultation to see if you want to book a consultation, because I always want to give you whatever help I can, but the whole purpose of this is general information that benefits all of the people that take the time to listen. All right? So there we go. Stephanie@stringham.ca right there, and EE Live Q&A is what you type into the subject line. All right. Okay, it's time now. So go ahead and post your questions. All right. Okay, here we go. So now's the time to post your questions in the comment section, and I will start to answer your live questions right now. For those of you who've tuned in a little bit late, it's Boxing Week here in Canada. And what does Boxing Week mean? Well, Boxing Week means amazing, incredible sales. And that's exactly what this is right here. So until November the 30th, which is Saturday, I am going to be offering you awesome folks something that I have never done before. I've offered 50% off. I've offered 60% off, but I've never offered my complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself for 70% off the lifetime access, which is basically about $150. And if you guys went in and you looked at the course and you saw everything that's in it, you would realize what a smoking deal this really is. But my whole purpose of this is not to get rich from my guide. The whole purpose is to provide you guys with tips, strategies, and just help and guidance that will allow you to be able to navigate Express Entry safely. You guys know that over the past while, there have been a number of situations where I have posted in my EE Live Q&As or talked about people who made small, simple little mistakes that would seem so inconsequential. And for whatever reason, because of that little mistake, they got their application refused. And in many cases, when your application gets refused, you go back into the pool. But with the score continually going up and up and up, you may never have a chance to get another ITA. And so that's why I created the guide. Many of you say, Mark, I can't afford $2,000, which I'm offering right now for a silver review. I can't afford that, and I could maybe book a consult, but I can't afford to hire someone to actually go through my whole application. Well, that's what this guide is. And I want to show you guys exactly what it is. So when you log in, and you can actually now, it's all on mobile devices now. It's awesome. So it's way easier for you guys to see, to watch, to view. But this guide right here, Express Entry Do-It-Yourself Guide, is a complete step-by-step guide. And so this is the view. This is what you'll see right here. And you can see there are a ton of modules. Learning the basics, in the learning the basics section, it's for people that give them an overview of how it works. The step-by-step guide, what is Express Entry, how the comprehensive ranking system works. In Module 2, it's all about preparing. So I don't want you to waste your money. If you've watched me do lots of videos and now you're at the stage where you think, hey, I want to do this, remember, you may not be eligible. So you may not even score high enough. So I want you to make sure that you understand what the requirements are. And so I've got videos, the top 5 things to do before you submit your Express Entry profile, registering for your MyCIC account, and then are you eligible? Maybe you're in Canada with Canadian experience. I have a video specific for that. Are you eligible without Canadian work experience? And so in these videos, it is a comprehensive walkthrough of everything that you need to do. And I always have links and additional resources associated with all of these individual lessons. But so that's module 2. Module 3 is diving right in and completing your Express Entry profile. And you guys can see here, just for that, I have an individual lesson for every single aspect of it. Whether it's the summary page, you can see here. If you're starting and you're just trying to understand how it all works, this is the overview. And continuing on, there's a personal details section for the principal applicant. The contact details, study and language, they're all broken down into individual pieces so that you only need to access the ones that apply directly to you. You know, if you don't have a spouse, then you don't need lesson 15, 16, 17, right? And lesson 18 is submitting your profile. Lesson 19 is registering with the job bank if you want to do that. Lesson 20 is understanding the report that you get back on your profile summary page. And then lesson 21 is how to update your profile after you've submitted it. And this lesson 21 is actually quite effective because it talks specifically about what you do if you need to make changes. And one of the best reasons that people need to make changes is they've either chosen to list their spouse as non-accompanying or to add them back in because maybe they've received a nomination from a province and now they want to add their spouse back in and they're eligible to do that. So that's what this lesson covers. And then lesson 22, obviously, is one of the best, amazing things that you could ever do, which is receiving your ITA. Okay? So that's module 3. Then we jump into, and then we go back here to the categories. We go to module 4. This is all post-ITA. And this is where there are it's chock full of individual lessons. And understand, guys, these are actual complete walkthroughs. So this isn't a case of me just talking generally about things, but this is actually viewing and watching the real thing. So if I click on
All right, welcome back. We are now at the stage where we're going to go over
I'm going to pause that because I know the audio is really loud. I apologize for that. But this is a complete overview of a real application. And it took me a ton of time to do this because I had to block out and screen out all my clients' information who gave me permission to use theirs as an example. And I don't know of anywhere else on the internet that anyone has gone to this length. And it took me so many hours, hundreds of hours to build this. And anytime there's a new updated section on Express Entry, then I update the actual lesson. And so there's a ton. And once again, you know, contact, study and language, all for the principal applicant. But maybe as a principal, maybe you don't have a spouse, maybe you do. Lessons 32 all the way to 37, 36 are all spouse. And then I have individual lessons for your dependent children. And you'd think, okay, that's pretty good, Mark. But guys, I don't think you fully appreciate. And I every once in a while, I'll get on my horse and I will start to tell you guys and try to show you what's inside. But as I go through this, and you go to module 5, this is all about the documents. And in lesson 40, which is really the preeminent lesson of this whole guide, if you look down here on the right, I have an absolute ton of sample documents so that you know the documents that you have are going to be accepted. Now, I don't have every police certificate in the world in here. You have to rely on the government's instructions for that. But I have tons of sample documents, gift deed samples, job offers, employer reference letters. I show you what an actual Canadian work permit looks like to make sure you're not getting duped by one of these scammers. You know, marriage certificates, degrees, diplomas, the ECAs from all of the different associations. I have an ECA from IQAS. I have ICES, U of T, WES, MCC, all of these organizations. I've got samples so that you can see exactly what they look like. The medical information sheet, you know, gift deeds, like I said, all of these are all in here as sample documents that are available for you. And in the whole lesson itself, I talk about each of these individual documents. And as always, direct you back to the source on the government's website where you can know that you've got it 100% correct. And then finally, as we go through all of the modules, I have a module specifically for uploading, like I said, in Module 5, the documents, but this is something that I don't think you guys understand either. I have specific sections, a member resource section that is absolutely full of information on Express Entry, and it's organized by category. Work experience, you can see all these different categories, everything from self-employed. How do I prove work experience if I'm self-employed is one of the more popular sections that I have. Language. What you need to do to work through it. What if I have a learning disability and can't write the test? Basic eligibility questions, job offers, proof of funds, police clearances, dependent family, non-accompanying spouse. I have a specific lesson on how to complete the EAPR if your spouse is listed as non-accompanying. And then sections on education, medicals, provincial nominations. What if you've got name changes, relatives in Canada, dependent children, spousal relationships, provincial nomination programs, and what happens when your Express Entry application gets refused. So I apologize once again because I don't want this to be some promotional thing for Mark, who is just trying to sell his guide. But my time can only be spread so far. And the reason I charge what I do is because my time is precious and it's valuable to me, especially my professional time. And clients have to pay to get direct access for that. And I don't make any excuses for it. I've worked very, very hard to develop the level of expertise and knowledge that I have about Express Entry. But I don't want to be one of those people who doesn't share and try to help people. That's why I do the EE Live Q&A, and that's why I created the guide. That's why I spent all that time creating this. And the reality is, with this guide itself, part of the reason why I created it was because it doesn't require any more time from me to share all of my tips and strategies with you. And when you look at this recent offer that I'm offering right here, like this is less than a 30-minute consult with me. You get the whole thing at 70% off. And I've posted the link into for the coupon code. I've posted that. I'll do it again in the comment section here, where you can access it directly. And remember, this comes to an end on November the 30th. So it is only for a short period of time. Okay? All right, now it is time for me to once again get to the comments. And I've got an angry face. Awesome. I love angry faces. That's fantastic. All right, well, I'm not quite sure why we have an angry face, but hopefully the person isn't too angry. Okay, let's go through this. We're going to start with Yuri. So Yuri was the first one that I started with. Okay, and we're a little bit over here. It's like 12:58. This has lasted a little bit longer, but all of you guys that have been patient and have been waiting, I promise I will reward you. Now give me 1 second. I'm just going to check here and make sure I don't have anything else. Okay, I have half an hour till my next appointment. So I'm going to give you guys all of the time that I possibly can. All right? Okay, so let's jump in. First question. This one is from Yuri. He says, "Hi Mark, in my confirmation of permanent residence, the port of entry is Vancouver, even though in my LOE I indicated Toronto or Vancouver, but the immigration officer picked Vancouver. Can I land and live in Toronto for the first few months? I might relocate to Vancouver if a decent job opportunity arises." Yuri, if you do not have a nomination from BC, British Columbia, if your Express Entry application is not a provincial nomination, then you can live wherever you want. Although I wouldn't go to Quebec because the program is not designed, and you have to show an intention to live outside the province of Quebec. Section 87 of the regs clearly stipulates that under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you have to show an intention to reside outside of Quebec. So you can't go there. But there's no issues, Yuri, with you flying into Vancouver or to Calgary or to Toronto or wherever and ultimately living there. Even if you indicated that you were intending to live in a different place when you completed your EAPR. It's just a matter of whether or not it's a part of a provincial nomination, because in those cases, you have to live in that province. That's where you go. And I won't change that advice. Yes, the charter offers freedom of mobility and all those kinds of things, but the only advice I give my clients is if you're nominated and a province gave you that much faith that they were going to allow you to come and get a pathway to permanent residence where you otherwise would never have been able to get it, you owe that province. You owe them to go there and live there and give it a good shot. Okay. Jephthah says, can you apply for express entry and get an ITA and go ahead with PR while your postgraduate work permit application is still in process? 100%. Jephthah, if you want to book a consult, we can talk about all the ins and outs of it. It's far better for me to spend a little bit of time with you now that you're at a stage where you're planning your future, so that we can make sure 100% that you are on the right track, but there is no restriction whatsoever in having an express entry application in the queue and having a work permit application in the queue. So congratulations on studying in Canada. I hope things really work out well for you, Jephthah. And for those of you who are just tuning in, once again, I'm also going to copy and paste into the comments section. If you have a question, if you want to set up a consultation with me, a paid consult, this is where you go, and you can just fill in the information. And the link, like I said, I'll put this in I think there's a link already in the description for this video if you're watching it on YouTube. But other than that, understand it's really easy to get a hold of me, and we can book a consult and go over everything. Okay, Badesha says, I applied for EE under the CEC and got an AORI, an acknowledgement of receipt, February 11th, almost 10 months ago. Yeah, and you're still waiting. That happens, Badesha. They asked for a new police clearance again, and I submitted it 10 days ago. GCMS notes said nothing. Do you recommend me wait, or shall I approach someone to boost the process? They send my file to the Winnipeg visa office, and as I connect with them, they said it's in the queue, but no response after. Understand, if they requested a police certificate right now, and just recently, then your application is actually going forward. So hang tight, hang in there. You will get landed, my friend. Okay, Yash says, hi Mark, I've submitted all my documents to IRCC under CEC. My question is, I have my documents as Yash. Patel. However, I used Yash Ketan Kumar Patel back in India. So as all my documents submitted was named in one name, I didn't mention the other name just to minimize any misunderstanding. So is it okay? If not, what can I do now? The reality is you have an obligation to indicate what your name is right now. And if there are discrepancies in a name used previously, you'll remember there was a specific question that asked you, have you used any other names? And that's where you have an obligation to indicate that. And if you didn't, then that can be a problem. So if you used another name and it's a different name than what you put in your express entry application, then you have an obligation to explain it and to list it, because that's one of the specific questions. And although, I would think they probably wouldn't find misrepresentation for that, I can't guarantee anymore. So Yash, yeah, you need to sort this out. And after you've submitted your EAPR, it's always tricky. Will they ultimately refuse your application because you did that? Well, I don't think so, but I don't deal in probabilities. I deal in possibilities, and it's within an officer's right to make whatever decision they want. So, misrepresentation has to be material, but they could say, well, maybe we weren't able to properly do our security screening and background checks because you didn't give your full name in your home country. So it is something to consider. If you want to book a consult, Yash, we can go through it. But I would try to clarify and explain about this name and how you didn't realize that you needed to explain it. And you didn't need to, that you hadn't thought it was important. Although you have to be careful how you answer that, right? Because the question is specifically asked in the forms. Okay, Oyeb says, hello, Mark. I had proof of funds for more than 9 months, but dipped for 3 weeks recently. Can I still use it or go for gift deed? It's not an issue. As long as the money you have at the time you file your EAPR is at that level, then any dipping that you do before you submit your EAPR is not an issue. It just shows that you've used it and you've resaved it, and that's what people do. Kabir says, hello, Mr. Holthy, and I hope all is well. Just out of curiosity, when was the first time Canada started issuing permanent resident visas to people from overseas? Also, what was the processing time before January 1st, 2015? Thank you. Also, FYI, you are amazing. Kudos and thank you for all you do. Kabir, thanks. I appreciate that. That means a lot. The first time they started issuing permanent resident visas for people overseas, wow. I have no clue. I imagine years and years and years ago. I'm not sure exactly when they would have done that. Not off the top of my head, that's for sure. But understand, immediately before January the 1st, 2015, there was no express entry. People qualified for the federal program the way they do now, or through the Canadian Experience class or the federal skilled trade programs. And in those cases, there was no comprehensive ranking system. So it was a first in, first out process. If you applied before someone beside you, they may have had 72 points under the federal skilled worker program. You may have only had 67, which was the bare minimum, but you would have had your application processed first because you submitted first. And with that type of a model, some countries' processing times climb to almost 6 or 7 years to process an application. Heck, people could be dead by that time. And so they knew that they had to make some changes. They weren't increasing the federal skilled worker program selection criteria points. They weren't going to increase that. I don't know why. At one time, they were as high as, I think, 75 points, but they dropped it down to 67, and then there were just tons of candidates. And so it was kind of messy. They had so many that they just culled out a whole bunch of applications to get rid of the backlogs, and then they shifted to express entry. Okay. All right, we've got a couple multiple questions here. Okay, Katamba says, thanks, Mark. Mark, which package and at how much is it for you to help one apply to the British Columbia PNP for one without any connection in British Columbia? Katamba, there really are very, very few options available to you. The best place to start always is to start with a consultation. Then we can explore everything, because I don't want to ever take someone's money and then start down the process of submitting an application and realizing that you don't qualify. Or in the case of express entry, yes, many people may qualify and they might be eligible to submit their application into the pool. However, the reality is the likelihood of getting an invitation to apply is almost nil, zero. And so that's why I always start with a consult. And Katamba, it is $150 US. Yes, so it's $149.10 US for access to the complete step-by-step guide. Good question. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Nilesh says, thanks for your great videos, Mark. We had a consult in the past and it was helpful. You bet. Thanks so much, Nilesh. I have one question. Will you be able to review my application whenever I apply for rural and northern immigration pilot here in Sudbury? 100%, 100%. I'm just getting an update when I go to Ottawa next week at my national meetings on how the rural pilots are going. I'm hoping to get the folks, the fine people at Claire's Home here in Alberta, to join me on my podcast to talk about the process and how it's going. But 100%, I'm happy to do that and happy to review in every way. Okay, Sharath says, hi, I'm applying under CEC. There was no knock mentioned in my work permit landing record. Can I find the knock on my own based on work experience and roles and responsibilities? Is there any chance my employer would have mentioned knock in the offer letter or any other document they sent to CIC, LMIA, etc.? Yes. So if you worked on an LMIA-based work permit, then 100% that LMIA would have identified the knock code. If you came in under the International Mobility Program under an LMIA exempt work permit category, the offer of employment would have listed that knock code. So it's 100% attainable, and yes, you would want to make sure that you are listing the same knock for sure. Bipasha says, hello, sir. Hi, Bipasha. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, Anbu says, Mark, it is good to add a letter of explanation in the very first page for the selected documents, which requires the LOE. And for work payslips, should I upload every payslip or only the recent 6 months? Anbu, first question, yes. If I have an explanation that relates specifically to a certain set of documents, I will often include that letter of explanation right together with those documents and scan it in right at the beginning and put it right easy so it's super easy for an officer to see. However, if you do decide to just use one and list them all, it's not wrong. That's fine too. Either of those is fine. When it comes to pay slips, I can't answer that one. It depends on how, when I look at your work history and try to put my old ex-immigration officer hat on and say, does this look like it's solid work history, easily verifiable? If it is, then I don't worry so much about pay slips for the whole history. I may only pull out one from the beginning and one a year, maybe the beginning of the year, or the end of the year, something like that, to show that you are continuously working. I might do that. It's only rare situations where I'll include pay slips for all 3 years. I wouldn't ever worry about including pay slips for more than 3 years of foreign work experience, just because you're not getting any comprehensive ranking system points any more than after you get 3. But understand, as long as under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you still, with those 3 years, meet the 67-point selection criteria cutoff. All right. Okay. Kabir says, hello, Mr. Holthy, and I hope all is well. It's wonderful, Kabir. Just out of curiosity, when was the first time? Oh, hey, we already answered that one. Well, hey, I guess I just wanted to hear him. I wanted to read him say that I was amazing again. Okay, moving forward here. Okay, so we got that one's a repeat. Okay, Parth says, can I call CIC for status updates? Can calling CIC for status updates have a negative impact on the application? And can ordering GCMS notes at the end of 3 months have any negative impact, or can it expedite the process? I would never ever say that it expedites the process. But if you want to see where things are at, there's nothing stopping you from making those requests. And if immigration makes it so difficult for you to get information on your application, to talk to a live person, then that's on them. And so if you're using the resources that are available to you to get background information on where your file is at, then I have no issues with requesting it. If immigration made it easier for you to talk to someone in a meaningful way, and to really have an idea of where things are at instead of being in this uncertain area, if they had that in place, then I would say no, don't harass them. But at the end of the day, just be reasonable about it. You don't want to be a pest. It's not going to negatively impact your application, but officers have discretion, and they can take anything into consideration, but they can't create a reason for refusal based solely on the fact that you called them repeatedly to get updates on your file. All right. Okay. Bipasha says, sir, our application is from express entry through the provincial nomination from New Brunswick. Recently, we got the visa and are about to enter within the next 2 months. So, sir, now my question is, during our first entry, can we land in Toronto and stay there for a few days and then go to New Brunswick? The key for you is to make very clear to the officer that that is your destination and that you have a reason for staying in Toronto for those few days. Usually people will land in Toronto and then transit immediately to New Brunswick. The key is for you to be able to justify and explain that that is the destination that you're going, because that's the province that nominated you. Bipasha, if it looks in any way, shape, or form that maybe you are not continuing on to New Brunswick, then an officer could refuse your application, because you have an obligation to show that you intend to settle in that province that nominated you. Okay, Siddharth says, hi, any discounts on LMIA and express entry application? Siddharth, absolutely. That same discount code that I have, and I'm going to show you guys here your view so that you guys can see. So if you go to the Canadian Immigration, let's go here, see if I can find it, see if I can get back to the main site. So here's the main site. I have individual guides, and if you go here, that's where you can go learn more for express entry, purchase the guide here, then go to the lifetime access, which is regular $497, purchase the guide, and then if you type in that black 70 right there, and then you click apply, it will reduce it down to $149.10. But I'll show you something else. We'll go back here, we'll go back up to the top, and when you click on business guides and then go down to, you'll see there's an LMIA guide for high wage positions. You click on learn more, and then from here, purchase guide, purchase now, and it's regular 300. And if you type in, same thing, black 70, and apply it, you get it for $90. So this deal works for both of them. So Black Friday is a Black Friday extravaganza. All right. Awesome. Well, it looks like we've done a great job of answering listener questions. I'll answer just a few more, and then we'll wrap up. So Bipasha says, thanks a lot, sir. Then we would go directly for New Brunswick. Perfect. And then Jephthah says, if you are in Canada with a recent full-time job offer without an LMIA, but applying for PR under the Federal Skilled Worker Program because you have work experience from back home, do you still need to show proof of funds? It depends on what that job offer is. That job offer has to be either supported by an LMIA or it's an employer-specific work permit. And I don't know, Jephthah, exactly what your work permit is. If you've been working for 1 year, and I'll end off with this one here. I'll share my screen once again, and I'll end off. We're going to go see if I can find it, just a quick search. RCCEE arranged. Let's see if this pulls it up. What is arranged employment for Federal Skilled Worker Program? Offer of employment. I think that's the one I want. I think I want offer of employment. I think I don't want that one. Offer of employment, I believe. Yes. Okay, so within this offer of employment, what you have to realize is that it has to be under one of these circumstances. So if we start off here, and we can maybe make this just a little bit bigger so it's easier to see, and then looks like I've got another one still stuck on here. Wonder why that's that. Sometimes that does that. It's weird. I must have more than one here. I've got a whole bunch of pages. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry. I'm losing it, guys. I'm losing it. It's this one. Hopefully that wasn't there the whole time every time I tried to share something with you guys. Probably was. Okay. It also must be made, okay, by an employer, and you can see a new LMIA. That's if you're not working in Canada, but it's an LMIA that was approved to support your permanent residence, or if you're currently working on an LMIA, skilled, or if you have a valid work permit, and this might be you, Jephthah, and you're currently working for the employer, and this is a work permit that is a 0A or B job that is exempt from needing an LMIA, and you're currently working for the employer specified on the work permit. If you have an open work permit, it doesn't work. It's not considered a job offer, and you will need to provide proof of funds. Have 1 year full-time work experience with that employer, and the job offer for at least 1 year after they issue permanent resident visas. Okay? All right. So I think that is just it. So thank you all for tuning in. It was another awesome EE Live Q&A. A little bit longer today, but I had a lot to talk about. I want to remind all of you awesome folks once again about this special Black Friday sale that's going on. 70% off access to my complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. All you need to do is to go to the CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com site, go to the individual guides, and select Express Entry, the one-time access, which is $497 US. But when you type in the coupon code BLACK70, you will get it for basically, I think it's $149, and 10 cents US. So offer expires November the 30th. And I also want to just remind you all, let's see if I can take a look at this one more time. I know I've got a few more things. Let's see if I can find it. Right here. Remember that until November as well, I'm offering my silver plan. If you take advantage of it just this week and you book that engagement, the silver plan is going to be offered $500 cheaper than it regularly is at $2,000, which personally I think is freaking awesome. So go check it out. If you'd like to connect with us and you want access to the silver plan, then just send an email to Stephanie@stringham.ca. Let's see if I can find her here. I keep changing this, but for whatever reason, then I lose her email address. So weird. Right here. So Stephanie@stringham.ca, send an email to her right now and you can access the silver plan. And those of you who are tuning in and are interested in, well, basically tuning in as a video and watching this as a recording, remember, all you need to do is to type in EE Live Q&A and send an email to Stephanie@stringham.ca, and then you can have your question potentially considered for another upcoming EE Live Q&A. All right, guys, this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer. Wow, got that one big. And what am I? I think I'm wore out. It takes a lot out of a guy to do this for an hour and however long, 13 minutes I've been doing it. Hopefully you guys are patient and you appreciate it. But thanks for tuning in. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. wishing you all the very best as you navigate this crazy world that we all call express entry.